Most men waste hours trying to figure out how to stay on her mind. But the truth, just 3 words said, the right way can make her think about you nonstop. And no, I'm not talking about the obvious. I love you. I'm talking about words that slip under her skin and trigger the part of her brain that keeps replaying you like her favorite song. Here's the secret. Women don't obsess over beauty or perfection. They obsess over feeling. If your words make her feel something no one else does, you become unforgettable. That's why these 3 magic key words matter. I'll share them with you in a second. But first, let me explain why most men get this wrong. They focus on constant texting, over-explaining, or trying too hard to impress. But obsession doesn't come from effort. It comes from impact. The right words don't just reach her ears. They echo in her mind long after you've left. And before I give you these exact 3 words, make sure you stay with me until the end, because I'll also show you how to use them in a way that feels natural so she never sees it coming, but always remembers you. Imagine making a woman think about you all day without sending her endless messages, without running after her, without turning yourself into some impossible version of perfect. Just 3 simple words, that's it. 3 words that, if you use them right, can be the difference between being just another face she passes by or the man who stays in her thoughts long after you've left. And let's clear this up right now. This is not some cheap party trick. It's not a tired movie line. And it's definitely not a silly gimmick meant to control her. This is real. It's rooted in deep psychology and in how attraction truly works under the surface. I'm talking about the part of the mind Carl Jung studied his whole life, the unconscious mind, that hidden space where real desires live. Most people believe attraction is about logic, about ticking boxes. He's handsome, he's smart, he's kind. Okay, I'm interested. But that's not how it really works. If it were that simple, dating apps would have solved love years ago. The truth is, the connections that move us the most are not logical. They're emotional, symbolic. They live in the part of the mind you can't see, but you can feel. Jung explained it perfectly. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will guide your life, and you'll call it fate. Think about that for a moment. The memories that stick with you. When someone's smile feels different, when a simple comment touches something deep, when a glance feels like a whole conversation, those aren't planned. They are emotional triggers that cut past logic and hit your core. They wake something inside you that you didn't even realize was sleeping. And here's where many men get it wrong. They try to create that feeling by doing more. More texts, more check-ins, more effort just to be noticed. But the harder you try, the less magnetic you seem. Because true attraction doesn't come from effort. It comes from resonance, from that calm but lasting mark. You leave when your words and energy bypass her conscious filter and go straight into her unconscious mind. This is where those 3 words matter. They work because they are not only words, they are a symbol. They plant an image in her head. They invite her into a story she can't help but imagine herself in. And once that picture is rooted in the part of her mind that holds meaning and emotions, you're no longer fighting for her attention like everyone else. You've entered a whole new space. You become the man she can stop thinking about, even if she doesn't fully know why. So here's my promise to you. By the end of this, you'll understand not only what to say, but why it works on a deeper level that has nothing to do with tricks and everything to do with psychology. This isn't about making her obsessed for a week and then fading away. This is about building a connection that pulls her emotionally and lasts because it touches something symbolic inside her. It's not magic, it's not manipulation. It's how the human brain works, and once you learn this, you'll see you don't need to chase. You don't need to stress. And you definitely don't need to be perfect. You only need to know how to speak in a way her unconscious will always remember. And that begins now. Here's a truth most people never mention. Attraction doesn't start in the logical part of the brain. It doesn't begin with checklists. It doesn't care about points like nice, kind, good job, good looks. That's not what makes someone unforgettable. The connections that stay with us, that haunt us in the best way, are emotional first, logical later. And this is what Carl Jung spent his life studying. He showed that the human mind is driven as much, if not more, by symbols, patterns, and unconscious pulls as it is by reason. We like to believe we're making conscious, smart choices, but really the unconscious arrives first. That's why he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will guide your life and you'll call it fate. In simple words, until you understand what's pulling strings underneath, you'll think things just happen. You'll think you just clicked with someone, but that click is not random. It's emotional and symbolic resonance. Something in their words, their moves, even their tone speaks right to your unconscious mind, skipping logic altogether. And this is where most men unintentionally block themselves from creating that kind of spark. Why? Because how do they usually start? With something plain, polite, and flat. Hey, how are you? How's your day? Hope you're okay. Now, it's not bad, it's just invisible. Those phrases don't create a spark. They don't give an image. They don't cut through the noise of her day. And if nothing you say stirs her emotionally, there's nothing for her mind to hold on to. No hook, no replay. Later. Think of it like this. The mind doesn't store words. It stores feelings. You may not remember the exact words someone said years ago, but you remember how you felt in that moment. That's emotional anchoring. Without it, even a nice conversation fades into the same boring blur. And here's the catch. The unconscious doesn't react to perfect grammar, flawless logic, or safe topics. It reacts to symbols, to pictures, to suggestion. That's why a single line with the right energy can be more unforgettable than 20 polite texts. Jung understood that what stirs us most is often unseen by the rational brain. When you tap into that, when your words carry a subtle spark, you pass through her mental filter. She isn't replying out of politeness anymore. She's replying because something in your words touched an emotional thread she didn't even realize was there. So if your aim is to leave an impression that stays, you have to stop leading with empty, emotionless lines. Next time you talk to a woman you like, ask yourself, does this create an image spark curiosity or move an emotion, or is it just filler? Because filler gets lost. Emotion gets stored, and the second you realize attraction is built in the unconscious, not in polite exchanges, you stop trying to impress with perfection and start aiming for emotional resonance. That's when you move from being just another chat to being the memory she can't shake off. Let's be real, most conversations start the same. Hey, how are you? How's your day? Hope everything's good. It's nice, it's safe, and it's totally forgettable. Now, I'm not saying kindness doesn't matter. It does. But when it comes to sparking attraction, safe is the fastest way to be invisible. Because polite, neutral greetings don't spark anything. In the emotional part of the brain, they're placeholders. They don't create a spark, a picture, or a feeling. And if you don't give the brain something to hold on to emotionally, there's nothing to anchor the memory. Here's what most people don't realize. The mind isn't a recorder that saves every word in perfect detail. It's more like a painter, It sketches the moments that feel meaningful and fills in the rest with background blur. You might forget the exact sentence someone said, but you remember the laugh it gave you, the butterflies it stirred, the curiosity it sparked. That's how emotional anchoring works. When you start a conversation with, "Hey, how are you?" her brain files it in the same folder as the hundreds of other, "Hey, how are you?" messages she's seen that week. It doesn't stand out, so it doesn't get replayed later. And if you're not standing out in those first few moments, you're already behind. Think of it like scent. Have you ever smelled a perfume or cologne and instantly remembered someone from years ago? That's because scent is tied directly to memory and emotion in the brain. Words work the same way. When they carry an emotional charge, they connect to a feeling. And that feeling is what gets stored. So the problem isn't that you reached out. It's that you reached out in a way that didn't carry meaning. It didn't light up the emotional wiring. It didn't paint a picture in her mind or create a moment she could actually feel. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. From a psychological point of view, the brain is wired to notice novelty. Anything that breaks the usual pattern, anything that interrupts the autopilot of daily life gets flagged as important. That survival wiring thousands of years ago, noticing something different could mean the difference between finding food or becoming food. Today, it means noticing someone who feels different from everyone else. So when you open with something that makes her pause, that pulls her out of her daily scroll, you trigger that novelty switch. And if what you say not only breaks her pattern, but also stirs curiosity or emotion, now you've created a double anchor. She's not just noticing you in the moment. Her brain is also placing you into the worth thinking about again category. But here's the warning: novelty without emotion is just a funny or quirky line. It might make her smile for a second, but then it disappears. You need both something unexpected and something that makes her feel. Because emotion is the glue that makes novelty stick. That's why the gap between "how are you" and something charged, playful, or imageric is massive. One goes unnoticed while the other slips in and makes itself at home in her memory. And in attraction, the second you take up emotional space in someone's mind, the game changes. Here's the trap: most men don't even realize they're walking into. You start sounding like every other man in her inbox. Same greetings, same safe questions, same predictable rhythm. And when you blend in, you vanish. It's not that she doesn't like you. It's that nothing about your words creates a moment worth holding on to. You become part of the background hum of her day, not the melody she replays in her head. And then, because you can feel you're not standing out, you overcompensate. You send longer texts. You fill them with emojis. You hand out big compliments. You fire off question after question to keep the conversation alive. But here's the hard truth: that doesn't pull her closer. It pushes her away. Why? Because the unconscious doesn't respond well to pressure. Attraction thrives in space. In that subtle tension between wanting to know more and not having all the answers yet. When you flood her with attention, you kill that tension. Instead of feeling drawn to you, she begins to feel weighed down by the interaction. What was once light and exciting now feels like a chore. Excessive effort also flips the emotional script. Instead of her thinking, "Can I win him over?" she starts to feel like the prize has already been handed to her. And human nature is wired to value what's earned more than what's given without effort psychologically. When something feels too available, the mind unconsciously assumes it's worthless. And constant questioning is one of the fastest ways to drain intrigue. It makes the conversation feel like an interview. Now, asking questions isn't bad. The right questions asked at the right time can be powerful. But when you rapid fire them just to avoid silence, you're telling her you care more about filling gaps than creating real connection. The truth is, attraction isn't about how much you say. It's about the quality of the moments you create. Your goal isn't to cover every pause in conversation or to prove how interested you are. Your goal is to drop sparks, small flashes of novelty, curiosity, and emotion that stand out against the background of her day. Think of it like this: if every other man is handing her a bucket of water, you want to be the one holding a match. A match changes the atmosphere instantly. A match has heat, energy, and mystery. It makes her pause, notice, and wonder what comes next. That's the difference between being background noise and being music. Carl Jung often spoke about the power of symbols and emotional resonance. When you speak in a way that hints at possibility, that paints even a small picture in her mind, you're not just making small talk. You're engaging her unconscious. That's where real attraction lives. So instead of chasing her attention with more words, more flattery, and more effort, take a step back. Create space. Let your presence and your choice of words carry the weight. Give her moments to feel you, not just read you. Because when you stop trying to outtalk every other man in her inbox and start focusing on impact, you move from being background static to being the signal she tunes into without knowing why. And this is where it all comes together. The moment we stop talking about theory and move to the tool itself, 3 words so simple you might laugh when you hear them. But if you use them with the right energy at the right time, they can completely shift the way a woman sees you. Those words are you and me. Now, your first thought might be, that's it, that's the big secret. But here's where most people miss the point. The strength isn't in the size of the phrase. It's in what it suggests. You and me doesn't just describe two people, it links them in the listener's mind. It plants an image where the two of you are already connected, already in the same frame, already part of the same story. Carl Jung explained that our unconscious speaks in symbols, not checklists. You and me is exactly that, a symbol. It cuts past logic and settles into the symbolic part of the mind where meaning and emotion are woven together. You're no longer just talking to her, you're talking with her in a way that makes her feel like you're already connected. Here's why that matters. Most men, when they want to suggest doing something with a woman, ask for it. Do you want to go out sometime? Would you like to grab dinner? When you ask, you put the power entirely in her hands. You are waiting for approval, and whether you realize it or not, that shifts the dynamic. You've placed yourself in the position of applicant instead of co-creator. But when you say you and me should grab dinner, you're not asking. You're declaring a shared vision. You're framing the moment as something that already exists in possibility. It's not a plea, it's an invitation with confidence baked in psychologically that hits very differently. Think of the unconscious like a movie projector. Most of the time when you talk to someone, you're giving them information. They process it. Maybe they remember it, maybe they don't. But when you say, you and me, you're handing them a short scene to play in their head. Suddenly, they're seeing you two together, laughing at a restaurant, standing side by side, sharing an experience. That mental image is the emotional hook. And here's the subtle genius of it. It's not aggressive. You're not cornering her with, we should be together on day one. You're giving her something light, playful, and easy to agree with, but that still builds an emotional bridge. You're suggesting, not demanding. That's why it creates intrigue instead of pressure. Jung would say, You're speaking in the language of the unconscious, using a simple symbol to awaken subtle desire. Because desire doesn't always come from grand gestures or deep confessions. Sometimes it's sparked by a fleeting suggestion, a possibility that her mind starts exploring without you having to push it. And the best part, you and me works in endless variations. You can attach it to an activity. You and me should catch a concert to a feeling you and me would make a dangerous team, even to an inside joke. You and me, we'd survive a zombie apocalypse. Every time you use it, you're reinforcing the image of togetherness without ever having to beg for it. That's why these 3 words are more than a line. They're a frame, a way to shift the dynamic from 2 separate people, having a chat to 2 people, sharing a possibility. And when you can plant that possibility in her unconscious, you stop being background noise. You become the scene she can't stop replaying. Here's why you and me land so hard. It quietly communicates 3 qualities that most women find magnetic, whether they can explain it or not. Comment your favorite line. I want to hear what resonated most. Thank you for watching.